My name is John Halpin alongside Chris Palmer. Chris Palmer, how you doing today?
Doing good, man. End of the week. But here we are. Off season is still moving. Trades and picks are still being made.
Absolutely. So we are recording this, and with this, it is 99 days away until football begins again. So we are less than 100 days as of this recording. Can you feel the excitement in the air, Chris Palmer?
It feels good being back in the double digits. 99 days is gonna go by way too quick.
Way too quick. So, with that being said, right now this is the end of May, beginning of June, and right now the off season has kind of pretty much happened. It's still happening right now, but all the big changes happened, like the draft, free agency, OTAs, all signings, trades, all that stuff. And so we wanted to create this episode today to kind of give you our thoughts on teams and how well each team did this following offseason. So this is our first ever off-season grading episode, and so I don't know about you, CP, but I'm excited to give out these grades.
Yeah, no, this was actually a very fun process to go through. I like before we started recording this, you and we were on, and for everyone listening at home, I went through all 32 teams, the transactions from the beginning of January until their latest transaction to see what exactly was going on with their team and their roster building and whatnot. As the people who watched last episode, I did draft grades, so I based their off-season grading off of the draft grade that I gave them. So there were some pretty high grades and some pretty low grades.
Okay, so with that being said, Chris Palmer, are you ready to hand out some grades?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. So let's start in the AFC North, in our home base. So I'll start actually with your Pittsburgh Steelers. What would you give the Steelers as a grade for this off season? They were very busy this off season.
They were busy this season. So to start with the draft, I would give them an A- for the draft. Very, very strong draft. So for an off season as a whole, I give them a straight A. From coach signings to free agency signings to the way they drafted, Omar Khan, the general manager, is really leading this team in the right direction. It's going to be exciting to see what happens with the Steelers within the next couple of years.
Oh, absolutely. And this season has a lot of revelations for the Steelers. A lot of revelations for the Steelers just going to be happening this year alone, so I'm excited for that. I give your Steelers an A-. I think they did extremely well this offseason. Reason A- is like it's a complete overhaul of their offense.
Mm-hmm.
The only consistent is still their running backs in Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. But aside from that, got some fresh blood in at receiver, but obviously you've got new quarterbacks at the helm. This is going to be the first full year without Matt Canada. And you got Arthur Smith as your offensive coordinator. He's a very run-oriented guy, and I think that fits the Steelers' motive very well. It's, for me, and you and I, we've talked about this both on and off air, I need to see it on the field. And it looks great on paper, and I love all the moves that they did. I just need to see it on the field. But I give them a very strong A-.
Well, yeah, to be clear, all of these gradings are all on paper. Everything that looks great will, of course, have a high grading. Everything looks great in Pittsburgh right now. It needs to be applied.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Okay. Let's move on let's go to my Baltimore Ravens. What do you give the Ravens?
Again, overall offseason rating, I'll give you guys a flat out A. A- in the draft. You guys had some really strong moves in the offseason. Flat out A, very strong. You guys are a force to be reckoned with again.
Thank you. I will give. I gave the Ravens an A- as well. I think we did have a big turnover amount of player turnover, if that makes sense. Like a lot of players left us to pursue other lucrative contracts, and I can't fault them. but we did replace them with pretty good, substantial players
Pretty
as well.
reputable players, right?
So I'm very happy with that. I am a little sad that our defensive coordinator Mike McDonald left, but John Harbaugh, I have full faith that our defense is still going to be pretty strong. You know, John Harbaugh, Roquan Smith, Marlon Humphrey. I'm fairly confident, even though the absence of, say, Patrick Queen to Pittsburgh and Mike McDonald to Seattle, I think the Ravens will still be fine and contenders next year.
And shame on you for letting Patrick Queen stay in the AFC North.
I mean, that was his,
Shame on the
his
Ravens.
choice, man. That was his choice. Okay. Let's move on to the Cincinnati Bengals. What do you give the Cincinnati Bengals?
They actually kind of upgraded for me. I gave them a B plus. Oh wait, no, Bengals. I gave them a B minus because they didn't draft a running back.
Mm-hmm.
But throughout the offseason, they actually picked up 4, one of which being Zach Moss, and 2 they signed undrafted free agents.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's going to be an open tryout for that running back position. But you can, on paper, you could almost say Zach Moss would be the most clear fit, but it's going to be cool to see how those 2 undrafted free agents work out in rookie camp that's happening right now throughout OTAs and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
It's an open tryout in Cincinnati for running back right now. In everyone's eyes is how it should be.
Mm-hmm. I'm not too far from you. I give the Cincinnati Bengals a B. I think that much like you and I, we've talked about since getting Joe Burrow, is like just get offensive linemen like Tic Tacs. Just keep getting them like candy, and they have been. And that's exactly what you need to do. Just keep protecting Joe Burrow. Get depth at offensive line because you can never have too many offensive linemen. I do agree with you. I think that the running back position is a position to kind of look out for them because they did have Joe Mixon for a long period of time, and his absence is going to be felt in that locker room. However, I do think that it's probably going to be more running back by committee, Zach Moss and the undrafted free agents as well. I think they'll be fine and competitive this year, but I'm curious to see the changes on their offense, especially with their offensive coordinator, Brian Callahan, now becoming the new head coach for the Tennessee Titans. So I give them a solid B. I think they did good.
Yeah, I can agree with that. They did very well.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to the last team of the AFC North, the Cleveland Browns. Who you got?
Well, they upgraded pretty heavy once I took a look at what they did.
Mm-hmm.
Going into after the draft, I gave them a C minus because they did not draft an offensive tackle. Mm-hmm. You and I, we were talking about they needed to go, like you were just saying, offensive line by committee. You need that depth on the offensive line. They picked up 7 offensive linemen throughout this offseason. So I bumped them up to a B plus rating because of that alone.
Wow.
They took that in full stride. And they were like, we're going to stay on. And they did it under the radar, too,
mm-hmm.
which is a good thing. They weren't really in the media with big free agency signings. They just kept quiet. We're going to get the pieces that we need, and then we're going to draft what we can.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to go from there. So B plus overall offseason for staying under the radar so well.
Okay. I give them a C plus.
Okay.
Reason being is because I think that they have a very talented roster, both offensive, defensively, and special teams. I think it's very talented. However, there's just one big glaring player that I don't think fits right in there, and I think that's Deshaun Watson. That's who this whole project is about, is Deshaun Watson in Cleveland. And I think that when the Cleveland Browns, when you look at when he played with them last year, they didn't really look good when he was under center. They looked even better when other players were under center, such as Joe Flacco. So I think that despite the roster and despite, kind of keeping the core guys, I don't think it's that much of an improvement as it was last year. So I'll give them a C plus.
Okay. No, that's fair. I do 100% agree with you that Deshaun Watson is like the elephant in the room on that team. Kind of said it last year. Once he was benched, they started winning in spite of him.
Mm-hmm.
They are a better team without him. You and I were one of the first people to say that because it was very blatant and apparent opening his premiere as a Brown. It was very apparent that they were a better team without him.
Yeah. I'm just putting this on the record. I would get a Joe Flacco Browns jersey, just saying. But that's neither here nor there.
You disappoint me.
I know. I hear that a lot. Okay, so let's move on. So that's the AFC North. Let's move on to the AFC East. You ready, CP? You ready?
Yeah, let's do it. Go ahead.
Okay, let's start with the Bills because they were busy, very busy this offseason. But what would you grade them?
You see, this offseason, like you said, they were busy. They had a decent draft. I gave them a B draft grading, but it kind of downgraded for me in the offseason as a whole. And the reason being is because they have an entirely new coaching staff. They have 4 new coaches heading into that. They have a new linebacker assistant. They have a new defensive assistant. They now have to have a coach called the offensive quality coordinator. So to me, that rings as a coach that needs to reel back Josh Allen when he starts getting emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you need someone who needs to reel in your franchise guy on your staff at all times, that could be problematic.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of downgraded them a bit. I gave them a B- overall grading.
Okay. I gave them a C. I did not like the way the Bills went about it. I think that the Bills, the past couple years, invested very heavily on their talented guys, but that comes at a cost at the cap because unlike baseball, football, you have a salary cap every year. And because of that salary cap, you had to cut a lot of significant, impactful players on your team on both sides of the ball. I think they did draft well. However, I think the Chiefs also fleeced them in the draft, too, for trading in the first round. And Bills gave away their first-round draft pick, and Chiefs just got Xavier Worthy. So I was like, damn, Bills, you just gonna get fleeced by the Chiefs even in the offseason. Damn. But to me, I think knowing the impact of their players that they lost, I think that the Bills are going to be taking a step back from Super Bowl contenders, as they have been in the years past, to probably more just playoff contenders this year. So I mean, but they do have Josh Allen is surrounded by a lot of young guys, and let's see what they got. Let's see what they got.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, but they are going to have a hard time in the AFC East.
Yes, in the AFC East and just the AFC in general.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the New York Jets. What do you got for the Jets, Chris Palmer? New York wants to know.
I gave them a B- overall. They're building for the future. And that's very apparent. They're kind of all in on the Aaron Rodgers gimmick. So it's that kind of, I think they shot themselves in the foot with that kind of a little bit. Having to double down and go all in on it and then hope for, if you're not hoping he stays, you're prepping for an overhaul in just about every position once he's gone. So B- because you played it safe, you did what you needed to do, but there was nothing extravagant that happened on the New York side.
Mm-hmm. I'm a half step down from you with the Jets. I give them a C+. Reason being is I think they're filling in the holes that they need to, especially on the offensive line and offensively. But they're doing so with players that are injury prone. And especially with it's like you have all your eggs in one basket with Aaron Rodgers. we saw what that happened last year, where it's like they didn't have a backup plan for that. And I think that, Aaron Rodgers, let's be real, he's 40. Yeah, he's going to be 40 this year. And
Right.
it's 8 quarterbacks don't age well. Tom Brady's the outlier, but he's not the norm. And I think I respect them for the positions that they're going, wide receiver, offensive line, but let's not beat around the bush, man. Robert Saleh's not the coach, man. And after this year, he's probably gonna they're probably gonna fire him. And I think that
He's
a lot
not
of
it.
people tiptoe around that. But I'll be the first to say that Robert Saleh is not going to be the head coach of the New York Jets by the end of the season. He's in every single year that he's been the head coach, he's had double-digit losses every single year. And I just don't think that Aaron Rodgers is going to come in and be your savior. But that's just me.
Yeah, no, for sure. Robert Saleh is not the answer.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to the New England Patriots. What'd you give the Patriots? Look at you viciously writing down everything. You look like a student over there.
I'm just
Focusing.
crossing shit out so I can see where I'm looking. I'm looking at my notebook and I'm just crossing names out as we go. It's not in any particular order.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Like, you're saying the name and I have to find it and then read across what I created.
Like, where the fuck are the Jets? Where the fuck are the Patriots?
Right. Literally, it's like, where are they? Give them a B. They had a B- draft. They drafted 2 quarterbacks when they needed a linebacker.
Yeah.
Think about that one. So that was it for a second. And didn't really make any crazy moves in the offseason. So give them a B. But a B for them is an A for a lot of other teams. So
yeah. I'm not too far from you. I give them a C. Reason being is they're rebuilding. Let's be honest. They're just rebuilding. Nothing sexy, nothing glamorous. I think this is more kind of like a feeling out process for the new head coach, Gerard Mayo. I think shame on the Patriots because they should have done this a couple of years ago when Brady left, but better late than never. So
better late than never, yeah.
But I'm interested to see what this new age Patriots team is going to be post Bill Belichick. But if we have an idea, Gerard Mayo was a linebacker that played for Bill Belichick, so he's probably of the
Similar.
same ilk of him, defensive-minded head coach. So
yeah, look at Mike Vrabel, and that's like a carbon copy.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see exactly what Mayo does. I'm optimistic for him. I thought he was a great player. I think he was a very smart player, and I think he'll translate that into coaching as well.
I agree. We'll see.
So, what?
I said I agree. We will see.
We will see. Let's move on last to the Miami Dolphins. What's your grade, Chris Bomo? Do they pass?
I give them an A- overall.
Oh, they passed
for the entire off season.
Ooh,
What?
Okay. They
give
passed
them
with
an
flying
A-.
colors.
They passed. they had a strong draft to me. They had B+ draft. They necessary holes where they needed to be filled. They filled every gap they needed. It all depends. It really depends on how the rookie camp goes when it comes to the quality of their draft. When it comes to who, but they're not over reliant. They didn't over pursue anybody. So, they did the smart thing and they drafted safe. So give them an overall for an A- with the Dolphins.
I respect it. I give them a B- because I think that I wish they would have been a little bit more splashy. Because although their offense is great, defensively they did lose a couple players, but they did replace them with some good players. Like they lost Van Ginkel, Christian Wilkins, and Xavier Howard as well, which are key pieces to that Miami defense, who at the end of the season were actually pretty good last year. They actually got, Hell, I mean, I had them in fantasy. They got me for like 14 points every week. I was like, sure, oh, damn, okay. but no, I mean, like they were very opportunistic and a very opportunistic defense. And I think that I just wish that they were a little bit more aggressive because this year is going to be indicative of do the Dolphins give Tua that contract? That's going to be the big questions. Like, okay, last year he had his best year. He was healthy. He threw for the most passing yards in the league, but the Dolphins are still iffy on giving him that contract. So
Right.
I wish I'm curious to
Which
see
is
how
crazy
this.
to me.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see where the Miami front office is thinking, but I give them a B minus. They're just they're gonna reload and reshoot.
Hey, that's a pass.
Yep, that's a pass. I don't think on full disclosure, I didn't fail anyone, but there are teams that did. They did pretty bad.
Like I said last time, it was very hard to keep a couple of teams away from that F-bomb, and it's not on my paper, but it was close.
I don't want to fail students, but you make it very hard.
Right, you made it hard.
Okay. So let's move on to the AFC West. You got your teams ready? You got them.
Go ahead.
You got them
I'll find
circled.
them.
Okay, let's start with the Chiefs. Let's just start with the Chiefs.
All right. Give them an A minus for the year, for the off season. You know, they're ready, primed and ready. They know what to do.
Yeah. I give them an A minus as well. Re-signed, restructured, and reloaded with speed.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it.
That's it. They know what to do.
Yep. Okay,
They're
now
going to be lethal in September, and even worse come December.
Oh, they're going to be lethal in January, which is going to be
right,
which is everyone's worst nightmare. Okay, but hey, very cut and dry. Chiefs know what they're doing. But now let's get into the meat of it. Let's start with the Chargers.
Interesting. They had an interesting draft. I gave them a B. They drafted very heavy defensively this year.
Mm-hmm.
I gave them a B plus for the year because it's still unseen with how the other Harbaugh is going to do going into the year.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of high hopes, a lot of high expectations. They need to create a 2-minute drill. That is the clear-cut issue before anything else moves on into this year. Is they need to know how to finish a game. If you can't finish a game, it does not matter who is on the field.
Yep. 100%. I was a little bit more harsh on the Chargers. I gave them a C.
Okay.
I like getting Jim Harbaugh as your head coach. However, their offense took a major step back. A major step back. You have Justin Herbert, still great, right? You lost Austin Eckler. You lost Keenan Allen. You lost Mike Williams. You got Joe Alt as a rookie tackle. That's good. I mean, he's a rookie. You got Gus Edwards from the Ravens. You got J.K. Dobbins from the Ravens. Your wide receivers are basically fans in the stands, right? It seems now they're going with a completely different dynamic than they have been in the years past. When it comes to offense, they're going to be a more run-oriented team than they have ever been since getting Justin Herbert. Because their wide receivers are a big question mark. They still have Quentin Johnson. They got was it Brendan Rice? They got just a lot of unknowns, and I can't grade them higher because I just don't know what they will look like on the field. Defensively, they're gonna get ready to get rid of either Khalil Mack or Joey Bosa because they can't keep both of them with their contracts, and both are significant impact players. So I think that this year with the Chargers, it's going to be a lot of growing pains. But I think that there's still optimism to be had in LA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in LA.
Okay, let's Las Vegas Raiders. What you got?
Well, we said that the Chiefs know what they're doing. The Raiders have absolutely no idea what they're doing. They are the epitome of sitting in a flaming building and saying everything is fine.
Yeah.
They were one of the teams as an overall grading that was harshly close to an F. I gave them a D plus overall for the year. And harsh, and that's like, you know me. I have a soft spot for the Raiders.
I know you do.
There's no words for the fucking dumb fuckery that is happening right now. B plus.
Well, before I give my grade, I want to give
66.
You just pass. Fine. First off, before I give my grade, I want to give a congratulations to Mark Davis and his 70-year-old Mark Davis and his 26-year-old girlfriend. They're having a child.
Gross.
Gross. What is going on in Vegas?
Totally a Las Vegas team.
What is going on?
The Las Vegas team to its core.
Mark Davis is 70. She's 26. What the fuck, bro? Okay.
It's fucking disgusting.
Disgusting. Okay, anyway. Initially, I had the Raiders at a C-.
Me too.
But when I really thought about it, I'm going to go D. I'm going to go D. Because, not for Mark Davis impregnating a 26-year-old, but because they have no direction. I think the only good offseason move that they made was keeping Antonio Pierce, because that's what the players wanted, right? The players wanted to keep Antonio Pierce as the coach because he was the interim head coach last year, replacing Josh McDaniels. They kept him. That was probably the best move, because you know what? Players want, like, if a player wants to play for you, take that and run it to the bank.
Let it rip.
Let's see what they got, because they're playing with like passion for you as the head coach. Aside from that, I have no idea what the fuck's going on in Vegas, because it's like they didn't make any big significant splashes. Gardner Minshew's now their fucking quarterback. I mean, granted, he's a good backup quarterback, but he's not going to be there
You can't
next
wrap
year.
a franchise around that.
No, he's going to go there, slay some poon in Vegas, and then he's going to dip out next year. Like, that's what's going to happen. I think what happened was they were banking on one of the 6 quarterbacks in the first round to fall to them.
Yes.
But Atlanta taking Michael Penix threw a monkey wrench in there, which then forced all the other teams to then kind of draft upward. Like the Broncos, for instance, they drafted Bo Nix, the pick before the Raiders. So at that point in time, the first round quarterback was off the board. It's like, well, we're already invested. So also, you got rid of Josh Jacobs. He was literally your whole fucking team right there. You got Devontae Adams. Trade this man. Trade this man to a contending
now this
team.
man is stranded.
Yeah. Trade this man to a contending team, get some draft capital for him, and try again next year. Because Raiders, you make it so hard, man. I really want to feel you. You make it hard.
I want to like you, but you're making it terribly hard.
Because I don't want to see you next year, you pass. Go.
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 You got a 66. Get out of here.
Okay. Congratulations, Mark Davis. No. Okay. Aside from the joke that is the Raiders, let's move on to the Denver Broncos. The other joke in the AFC East. Sorry, AFC West. But who you got? What do you got for them?
Middle of the road. I gave them a B plus for both draft and overall. Nothing too shabby, nothing too extravagant. A lot of releases, of course, but they filled it with a bunch of journeymen and letting Sean Payton take them and do his best. So we'll see.
I give them a D, the same as the Raiders. I did not like the Broncos at all this offseason. I thought, yes, getting rid of Russell Wilson was the right move, right? Because he was not the right fit in Denver. Sean Payton was like, let's see how it is, and even though he did have a better statistical year under Sean Payton, he did not. That didn't result in winning more. They won a little bit more, but they were kind of middle of the pack. Excuse me. Um, Sean Payton has an identity for this team, and that's to run the ball. They did draft Bo Nix in the first round, and they are putting all their faith in Bo Nix. But however, he does not have a good support system around him. And as successful as he can be, or he could be, I don't think that this year is going to be. I don't think the Broncos are going to be a better team this upcoming season than they were last year. And I think for that, the Broncos were one of my biggest losers this offseason.
Okay, that's fair. We can agree to disagree there. I liked how they drafted. I feel like again it's kind of open tryout, but it's for a lot of positions in Denver.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty clear that they're still going to be number 4 in the division, but it's going to be slow stepping for them for a while.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's the AFC West, and let's finish off the AFC by going to the AFC South. So, Chris Palma, I'll start with probably the team that probably made the biggest splashes in the Houston Texans. What would you give them their offseason?
A. Overall A. Nothing to shake your head at. You know, they're going to be dangerous this year. A- draft.
Mm-hmm.
Bunch of offseason moves. You know, the addition of Stephon Diggs. Now you have 3 number ones on one offensive core. It's just going to be a matter of getting them all on the same page. I'll give them an A overall.
Absolutely, I'm with you on there. I give the Houston Texans an A, and I think they're Super Bowl contenders. I think that they can.
Oof, that's a strong one.
It is, but I think that with the roster that they have, both offensively and defensively, I think that they're one of the best teams in the AFC with all the moves
Agreed.
that they made.
I can agree with that.
And I think that we will see the Texans and Chiefs play in the regular season. And I don't know what date that is on the calendar because the schedule did release, but I'm going to circle my calendar for that day because
we will be talking that game.
We will be talking that game. But I think Texans, they're a Super Bowl contender with all the offseason moves that they made.
That would be cool to see.
Let's move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars. What you give them?
Again, I'll give them an A. They had a great month of March. They had a really good offseason. A- in the draft. I'll give them an overall A. Good for them. They're going to be good.
I gave the Jags on my notes here a B-, but I could go B. I think that it wasn't sexy. It wasn't a sexy draft. They're still looking for that number 1 wide receiver for Trevor Lawrence. They're looking for him to have a connection with someone. They tried that with Calvin Ridley last year. It didn't work. But I think that they're still kind of looking for that. But this has to be the year for Trevor Lawrence to make a leap, no? Because he did really well last year up until he got injured.
But that's the story with him.
Yeah, I know. So
it's kind of the same story with Joe Burrow now. He does great until he gets hurt.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that the Jags offensively will be fine. Defensively, I have a lot of questions. I think they're starting to regret taking Trayvon Walker over Aiden Hutchinson a couple years ago. I think that if they were to go back in time, they would probably redo that pick because
hindsight's always 20/20
because of just how impactful Aiden Hutchinson is in Detroit and how quiet Trayvon Walker has been since coming to Jacksonville.
But I feel like that has to do with the system that Aiden Hutchinson fell into. Again, he fell into such a message that was sent in Detroit versus a very muted defensive scheme coming from Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you want to be a star, you got to be put in the right position to show that you're a star.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I feel for Trayvon Walker. You know, he's a very good athlete.
Mm-hmm.
But he's in the wrong place right now. He needs to be on a team that has more people around him.
I feel like he'd be a good complement, not a good focal point, if that makes sense.
He needs a veteran to develop under.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, like, hypothetically, let's say Calais Campbell stayed there.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're onto something.
Mm-hmm.
Then you could talk about potentially making him a focal point.
Mm-hmm.
Him being alone right there, it's sink or swim.
Actually, we actually just kind of talked about it just a couple minutes ago. You know, a team that's looking to get rid of a defensive lineman, the Chargers, looking to get rid of Khalil Mack. I would say Jacksonville. I say
Maybe.
at least I say think about it, because
Things to think about.
I would say maybe give it a shot.
Roll it around, maybe see if you can pull your draft stock around.
Yeah,
That's an idea.
because
But then it's then you have an extra linebacker, or someone who could put his hand in the dirt on a bull rush defense. But you still have so many other holes of still being that number one search on the offensive side.
Mm-hmm. True. And I think that for the Jags too, I think like this has to be the year where it's like you find your guys, because Houston's here to stay. CJ Stroud's here to stay.
Mm-hmm.
The Colts and Titans, they're feisty. So Jags, it's like you can't be complacent. You have to be better. And I hope that they are better, because we like to see the Jags. They're a fun team, but it's not going to be
all
easy
about
for them.
application at
Exactly.
the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
They got a lot of good pieces in this offseason. I agree with you. This is it for Trevor Lawrence. You need to show, are you a franchise guy or not?
Mm-hmm.
The pieces are now with you, and bring them together, be the leader that we need you to be in this franchise, and win us some games.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Let's move on to the Colts. For me, I gave the Colts a B-. I thought they drafted well, but the big thing for me is much like we just talked about with Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow. Like, can Anthony Richardson stay healthy? He only played like 5 games last year, so that's not a big sample size. But that defense needs to improve. That defense was horrible last year.
Right.
That's the big step, and I think that they focused enough of that in the offseason to at least make it slightly better than they were last year. So I give them a B-.
Yeah, I'm not far from you. I gave them a B overall. I gave them a B+ from the draft. But not having a chance to draft a quarterback, just in case. I know Anthony Richardson's coming back. He's still unproven, but to be out for the season 3.5 to 4 weeks in on a concussion, that's a pretty major concussion. So his cognitive ability will always be a question mark from here out. That's just what it has to be.
Yeah. There's a lot of question marks there, but I think Shane Steichen has a vision for this team, and I think that a lot of the players are buying into his vision. So the Colts are going to be feisty this year. They're a team that I'm interested to see. Now, last but not least, the Tennessee Titans. What'd you get the Titans this year? Oh, you're shaking your head. You're shaking your head.
They make it hard.
Uh-oh.
They made it hard. They're another team that I have a soft spot for. They made it so hard. I gave them a D. Give them a D overall for the year. They did shit in the draft, and they did shit in the fucking offseason, and they got rid of fucking Mike Vrabel. What the fuck? You get rid of Derrick Henry, you get rid of Mike Vrabel, you do dog shit in the fucking draft, and you pick up no one to replace Derrick Henry.
No, they got Tony Pollard.
Shut up.
Where did Derrick Henry go?
Shut up.
So
they can
gave
sit at the bottom of that division. Yeah, they can sit there and think about what they've done to themselves.
Okay, I went a little higher than the D. I gave them a C plus. Reason being
Generous of you.
Very generous. Reason being is because they're making moves in the offseason. Like, I like Tony Pollard. He was good. He's not Derrick Henry, right? They also got L'Jarius Sneed for the Chiefs. I was like, okay, they got J.C. Tatham from the draft, like, who looks like a fucking stud out the gate, like just out of fucking training camp. The moves that they seem to be making are indicative of teams that want to win now. However, this is more of like okay, show us what you got this year. But I think that they're more like, no, show us what you got. And I think they have a little too much faith in Will Levis. Because now this is much like Anthony Richardson. This is going to be his first full year under the Titans, under a new head coach. So I think that I like that they have faith in their team. However, I don't think that, much like with Deshaun Watson, I don't think that he's the guy that's going to lead them to the promised land. So, I gave them a C plus.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay,
very generous of you.
Yes. So, that's the AFC. So let's move on to the NFC. Do you have a particular division you want to go in?
No problem with me. Do what you need.
Let's go NFC North. We'll start with the North because we started with the AFC North. So we'll start with the NFC North. Let's just get the elephant out of the room. Chicago Bears. First of all, I just love hearing the.
I gave them an A- for the whole offseason.
Mm-hmm.
I gave them an A-. Outside of the Caleb Williams, my opinion on Caleb Williams, they went about this offseason very strong. I wouldn't really necessarily call it win now. They do want to win now, but they're also setting themselves up for a strong future.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of Caleb Williams, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, they passed with flying colors. They had a pretty strong draft with very minimal picks, and they had no choice but to make almost all of their moves in the offseason, and they did just that. So my hat's off to how they moved all the offseason.
Yeah, I have the same exact grade for them. I have an A- because they did exactly what they needed to, which was a complete offensive overhaul.
Yes.
Complete offensive overhaul. And some moves were even a little bit more surprising to you and I. The Keenan Allen trade, which was very surprising. It's like, oh,
that was a head turner.
Oh, so you have DJ Moore and Keenan Allen and
right.
DeAndre Swift and Cole Kmet. Personally, I don't like Cole Kmet, but I know a lot of people are high on him.
I like Cole Kmet.
But they did exactly what they needed to. They could have also kept Justin Fields, but I think that the writing was on the wall. That they were like,
they were over it.
Yeah, they were over Fields. So, I think this is going to be a very different Bears team than what we're used to seeing. My thing is, though, and I'll say it right now, I don't think Matt Eberflus is the guy in Chicago. I think that a lot of teams will be or a lot of fans and stuff will see that the Bears will have the talent, but then they're going to be underachieving, and I think that Matt Eberflus is going to be a name that is going to be tossed around a lot this year. He's a defensive guy, and although they did have a good defensive spark at the end of last year, that's not indicative of his 3 years in Chicago. Like, he's been very mediocre at best. Um, so I like the players that they have, the roster that they have. I think they need a different coaching staff, but that'll probably be next year. But as for this offseason, A minus.
Yeah, no, A minus. But definitely gonna have to keep a close eye as to what happens during camp and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's an open tryout for them too, across the board in a lot of positions.
I know, even quarterback.
Even a quarterback.
Okay, let's go to the Detroit Lions. What'd you give the Lions this year?
They passed with flying colors. I'll give them an A. You know, they had a great offseason. They drafted very strong. No quarrels with what they do. Give them an A.
Yep. I give them a B plus. A lot of great little moves, a lot of different re-signings, and I think that we'll see them in the playoffs again. And I know you and I are going to be very happy to see them.
I think them re-signing the entire coaching staff and general managers is the ace in the hole there. Just bring everybody in the room back.
Yep. Dan Campbell, man, he's the guy. Keep him there. Keep him.
Yeah, but the whole
staff, yeah.
Staff. Bring everybody back.
Yep.
Everybody's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
So
nice. Green Bay Packers. What'd you get the Packers?
Give them an A, man. I'm still questioning drafting the 3 safeties, but you know, draft for depth. Give them an A. Strong. Very strong.
I give them a B plus as well. I think I really liked them signing Josh Jacobs. I thought that was a fantastic move. Nothing against Aaron Jones. I thought he was good, but he's not consistently healthy. Josh Jacobs, he's consistently healthy and he's consistently good. And that's exactly what I think that the Green Bay Packers need to kind of get them over the edge. And man, let's not forget, they almost beat the 49ers in the divisional round. They were close. They were very close. I think I would like to see another full year of Jordan Love, but I think they are a young, talented team, and they are. I would like to see them playoff bound, but that's just me.
It would be cool to see eventually.
Yep.
They still need a piece or two, I think, but I like the way the Packers are sorting out.
Mm-hmm. Last but not least, Minnesota Vikings.
A minus. Strong. Very strong.
I gave them a C plus. I was a little off on them. Me personally, I was just like, I'm glad they drafted, like, if they were getting rid of Kirk Cousins, I'm glad they drafted a quarterback. J.J. McCarthy's a good quarterback in college. But much like the Titans, right? They're putting their faith in a rookie quarterback, and their offseason moves, like free agent moves, are like, we're here to win now. And it's like, fam, you got to rebuild. You got a
long way to go before you start winning now.
And let's be honest, Justin Jefferson, he's not going to be here next year.
He may not be here by the end of the year.
Yeah, so
he wants out.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that despite doing the appropriate moves for a rebuild, you still have that one big piece, and Justin Jefferson, he's the star. So I think he's going to make J.J. McCarthy look absolutely fucking stunning, but while he's there, but he ain't going to be there for long. So, but I give them a C plus.
All right.
Okay, let's go NFC East. Let's start with your Dallas Cowboys, Chris Palmer. What do you give your Dallas Cowboys?
I'm gonna give them a B plus for boring as shit. Their entire offseason was boring, but it was about middle of the road. That's what you expect from them. Nothing crazy. Every piece that they needed to get, they somehow got. They fucking drafted fucking bullshit, but it was bullshit that was just filler everywhere. Jerry Jones was asleep until about the 4th round. So middle of the road, boring offseason for them. B plus.
I give them a C minus. I didn't like a lot of what they did. They didn't really do much.
Did nothing.
They did nothing. So
they did nothing.
They didn't even offer Derrick Henry a contract.
They didn't call him. The man was training at the facility.
They didn't even call him. And
The man was training at the fucking facility, and they didn't give him a phone call.
shame on Jerry Jones. It's like, you give this man a fucking call. Like, this man's on the open market. You give this man a fucking call.
He bought a house in Houston.
Especially when you give away Tony Pollard, and then he's like, no, we have a secret weapon. We're getting Zeke back. Yeah, like, he's gonna be a fucking world beater. Yeah, no.
Right.
So, I give them a C-. I'm gonna just quote Skip Bayless: "All in, comma, my ass."
Oh my god. Of course, Skip Bayless. Of course, Skip Bayless. When he's talking, oh my god, he's
Jerry
such a
Jones
chump.
said they're all in.
He's such a chump.
Oh my god. Let's go Philadelphia Eagles. A little bit more optimistic. What'd you give them?
A+. They were the only A+. They were the only A+ that I gave them.
I like
it. They had a very strong draft. They were able to fill the retiring of Fletcher Cox, no problem. They did that a year prior. The fucking Georgia Eagles are gonna come in. They just keep drafting people from fucking Georgia that played on the national championship team together, and it's like you can't knock it.
You can't.
So flying colors for them.
I give them an A. Not an A+, but I give them an A. I think they were the big winners this offseason. And you and I, we spoke about this off air. I like their free agent signings a lot, especially Devin White. Man, I think he's going to be a world of a difference for that defense, because it's like they lost the 7 out of their 8 games last year because of defensive fundamentals. And then what they do in this offseason, they got a new defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, proven defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio.
Yeah, the defensive coordinator.
Yeah. So, and you also get Kellen Moore help you with the offensive coordinator. Oh yeah, Saquon's he's along for a good ride. He really is. But I think the Eagles are one of the most improved teams this offseason for all the moves, coaching, free agency, draft, home runs across the board.
Going to be interesting.
Washington Commanders.
A-.
Ooh, I'm surprised.
They had a very, very good offseason.
I like.
From moving on with coaching staff, they drafted rather well. I give them an A-. They're gonna fight this year. Don't sleep on them.
I like it too. I gave them a B-, but I did like a lot of what they did this offseason. I liked, again, you get Dan Quinn to replace Ron Rivera. I get it. You need a new voice in the locker room. Get Austin Eckler. You still have that great receiving core, and then you get some linemen, because God help you, Sam Howell couldn't stand up to save his life last year. Sacked nearly 50 times last year. Disgusting.
Crazy.
And then you bring in a Heisman quarterback. You draft Jaden Daniels. I think that was a great move. You bring a lot of athleticism to an already athletic team offensively.
Right.
I'm with you. I think Washington, they are going to be extremely feisty this year. Complete overhaul. Exactly what they needed to do. The last team on the NFC East, the New York Football Giants. Look at that. Look at Chris Palmer contemplating. He's like, you know what?
No. It's not. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. But they were the lowest grade on my board. I gave them a D for a draft. Because they did not draft an offensive lineman.
What have they had problems with for years?
They got worse. I gave them a D-. Because they did nothing but restructure 2 offensive linemen's contracts, and they picked up 1 undrafted free agent lineman. Are you kidding me?
Oh man, Chris Palmer, I'm doing it.
Oh no.
I'm fucking doing it.
Oh no.
I have the Giants at a D. I'm changing it right here, right now. They get a fucking F. Right here, right fucking now.
Are you kidding me?
Me?
No, the Giants. Are you kidding me?
Look, so it's no longer Daniel Jones, it's Faniel Jones.
It's
no
Failure
more
Jones.
It's Failure Jones. Like, okay, so for everyone watching right now, I wrote down every grade and I wrote a little sentence next to each one. The sentence I wrote next to the Giants, I'm doing it, is 9/11, destroying a city.
We're gonna get fucking banned because of that.
Probably. I don't care. But this is my thing. They made horrible decisions. Not just this offseason, but several off seasons ago that has led them to this moment. First off, you took out the heart and soul of your team in Saquon Barkley. He went to Philly because he hates you so much.
Right, congratulations. You kept him in the division.
You kept Daniel Jones.
You paid Daniel Jones.
And you're stuck with him. And you have no offensive line help. God help you, you have no defensive. You signed Brian Burns just to help join a sinking ship.
You sit there at the bottom of the division and you think about what you've done.
You get a fucking F. The Giants would be lucky to be winning 4 games this year. 3.
Yeah, 4 games a lot. I'll give them 3 games at maximum.
So, Giants fans, you deserve better. But goddamn, this
Giants team, you deserve better.
Holy shit, man! It's
pretty embarrassing.
Truthfully,
pretty embarrassing.
Faniel Jones. You don't get a D. You get an F.
You get an F. Jesus Christ! He threw out the first F of the year.
Okay, let's do it. NFC West.
That fucking dumpster fire. God.
You got dumpster fire. Whoa.
Oh no, I'm thinking the NFC. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You thinking NFC South?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You want to do the NFC South? We can do the NFC South.
No.
Okay, let's do the NFC. We'll end off with the South.
Yeah.
Let's start with the Cardinals. What do you think of the Cardinals this year?
You know what? They actually surprised me this year. They seem to have started to invest in the idea of Kyler Murray, while at the same time understanding this may be his last chance. But they made a lot of really solid moves. I gave them an A. They passed with flying colors in my eyes. They had a very strong offseason.
A?
Give them an A. Give them a B+ for a draft.
I was not expecting that at all. I'm genuinely shocked.
They were strong. To me, they were strong. It's gonna be fun watching them. They got to keep Kyler Murray protected, and they got to keep him focused. That is the big thing.
Yes.
But if they can do that, who knows what the Cardinals could be?
I gave them a C+. I wasn't as high as on them as you were. But I completely get where you're coming from. For me, it's for the same reason. They're filling holes. They're filling holes in their roster, and that's exactly what you need to do in the offseason. I think they'll definitely be better than what they were last year, especially since Kyler wasn't able to play the first 8 weeks of the season. Now you gave him a new toy in Marvin Harrison Jr., and I am really curious to see how that
instant
connection's going to be.
Maker.
Yeah. So I think that. And no offense to Hollywood Brown, I love Hollywood Brown, but I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably a massive upgrade.
Oh my God, yeah.
To Hollywood, yeah. So, I gave them a C+. I think that they'll be very feisty. I think that this is the right time to be investing into Kyler, especially when you've given him the contract, a couple years ago, a little early too, but even still. I think once Kyler flips that switch in his mind that to throw first and not run first, I think that will be a big difference in that offense.
I agree.
Okay, let's go LA Rams.
A- for the year. A minus.
You are a generous professor.
Give them a B plus for a draft. And I think they did everything really strong. Again, they're gonna feel the absence of Aaron Donald. You know, no matter who you feel, you're not going to be able to replace that wholly. It's just what it is. It's the same effects with any type of Hall of Fame caliber player. You can do everything you want. You aren't going to fill that hole totally. It's just not going to happen.
No.
So they're going to have to get over that hump before they can really start to see who they are without him.
Mm-hmm.
They got to get over that hill first.
Absolutely. I gave them a B.
Okay,
I think
not far off.
No, not far off. I think again, it's replacing the irreplaceable. And it's so hard to do. It's impossible to do because Aaron Donald's one of one, right? You can't replace him, right? But I think that Sean McVay is really good with young players. And I think that so long as they have Matt Stafford leading their offense and you have a lot of young players making plays and that they just draft very well. Like Puka Nacua, 5th-round draft pick last year. Kyron Williams, late-round draft pick last year. Those are difference makers that on the team that helped them that helped them get to the playoffs last year. So I think that, you just kind of get some more young blood in there, and it's just going to keep them floating. They'll be good.
Hey, we got to see what it looks like. It's going to be cool.
Mm-hmm. Seattle Seahawks. What'd you give them?
Again, I gave them a B plus for a draft. So, I give them an A minus for the year. A minus for the year. They had a very solid offseason. No complaints.
Damn, you have a lot more A's than I do.
Again, I went based off of my draft grades.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, I'm not going to go drastic from the draft grades. The draft grades were huge.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I give them a B. I think the biggest move is getting Mike McDaniel as a new head coach.
Mm-hmm.
I think that getting a new voice and getting another defensive-minded head coach is going to do wonders because they have. I like their team. I like especially on the defensive side, Quandre Diggs, Michael Jackson, just so many great young players, and I think that Bobby Wagner's just came back too, if I'm not mistaken. So, I give them a B. I'm interested to see, but Geno, that's the thing. Geno can only take you so far.
Which side of Geno are we going to see? That's the question.
Yeah.
Are we going to see Geno with nothing to lose, or are we going to see Geno with his feet in the ground?
Yeah. So
we all know what Geno with his feet in the ground looks like.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay. Last but not least, the San Francisco 49ers.
A minus for the year. Again, they're primed. They know what to do. They filled a bunch of necessary holes, and that's really all they needed to do.
Mm-hmm. Which is crazy, too, because they didn't really have many holes to begin with.
Right. But the holes they needed, they absolutely filled.
Absolutely. I give them a B+. It's now or never. It has to be now or never.
Has to be now or never.
Yep. So, good on them for this offseason. Okay, now we move on to the dumpster fire that is the NFC South. Now we do that. So, Chris Palmer, let's start it off. Let's start off in the Big Easy in New Orleans. What do you give the Saints?
Oh my God. I gave them a C+ for the year. I don't like how they drafted at one bit. They made a couple of pretty strong moves in the offseason. Give them a D+ for a draft grade. I want you to know that.
Oh, wow. Ooh.
I did not like how they drafted at all.
Really?
They drafted a quarterback in the 5th round. They drafted a quarterback in the 5th round, and they had no fucking safety. Come on.
Oh, yeah, they still got Derek Carr. I forgot he's still there.
So they're rolling him with Derek Carr. You didn't get anybody to compliment Tyrann Mathieu, and you drafted a quarterback in the 5th round. That's why I hated their draft. They made a couple of moves. To me, their best thing was fucking extending Tyrann Mathieu. Nothing to me fucking rang. We're gonna win games. To me.
Yeah. Yeah. I gave them a C minus because I have two words in my statement is any plan. Any
Nothing.
plan.
Nothing.
So I'm just at a loss for words. Like, I don't know what's going on in New Orleans because it's like you're committing to Derek Carr, okay, but he's like Geno Smith. He's only going to get you so far, and it's like, and
Right.
even still, he's not even going to get you as far as Geno Smith,
Right.
which is crazy to say, but it's true. Yeah, C minus, man. I don't know what the fuck's going on in New Orleans.
Right. That's just another big old question mark.
Let's move on. Let's move on to Tampa Bay. What do you give Tampa?
Middle of the road. Give them a B. B plus in the draft. This is Baker's year again, so we're gonna see what Baker can do again.
Mm-hmm.
How far Baker can get them is how far his psyche stays in. He's a side of two coins. Which Baker are you gonna get? You're gonna get the totally invested Baker Mayfield, or are you gonna get the one that points fingers and blames his team? So,
yeah, I give them a C plus. Best thing that they did, extend Baker Mayfield because, like you and I
Right.
said, he found a home there. He really did find a home in Tampa. They embraced him very well, and Mike Evans, they have a really good connection there. But they lost some good, significant players on their defense. Devin
Right.
White, Shaq Barrett, and that
Mhm.
defense, like those were like the key pieces.
It's a skeleton crew of what that defense was.
Yeah, so I give them a C plus. I think that they'll be floating around 500 for the year, which in the NFC South is good enough to win the division.
Right.
So let's move on to Carolina. Is there even anything to be said with Carolina?
Yeah, I mean, they drafted no offensive linemen. We spoke about that when we did our draft, right? So I gave them a C minus. They only picked up 3 offensive linemen this entire offseason.
What?
I gave them a D.
What?
They picked up 3 offensive linemen. One of them was a restructured contract.
What the fuck? what the actual
What?
fuck? What the fuck?
Like, wants to make your head spin. Like, how do you expect to succeed at all? 3 offensive linemen since January?
Plus also new head coach as well. This is like what the 6th one under David Tepper's reign
In the past 10 years, right? Like, Jesus.
I know. I give them
I
a
gave
C
them a
minus. Because they're just rebuilding again. And again, they won 2 games last
They're just
year.
scraping rock bottom. It's just what it is.
I feel bad for Bryce Young. I really do because it's like he came into like the worst team, and the only other team
to be the worst team.
The only other team that I see possibly worse than Carolina is the Giants. That's really it.
Right, they're going to be competing for the number 1 overall pick this year.
And thank God they didn't trade this overall pick to the Bears.
Oh my God.
So Chicago, you could thank Carolina all you want.
Right. But they're going to be competing for the number 1 overall again.
Yeah. Okay, and finally, the last team, the 32nd team, we go to Atlanta, Georgia for the Falcons. What do you got for the Falcons?
Give them a B plus for the year. Nothing too shabby, nothing too out of the ordinary.
Nothing too out of the ordinary.
I mean, drafting the quarterback was kind of a question mark after fucking slam dunking Kirk Cousins. That was the big old question mark. I think that was kind of the middle finger to Vegas. But other than that, it was like a so-so off-season for them. Middle of the road.
I give them a B. I do think that they are better than they were last year.
Yeah.
I think offensively because Desmond Ridder was not the quarterback, to lead you to a division title.
No.
But there's a lot of young talent there. Kirk Cousins, I think, he'll be good. I like Kirk Cousins. I'm a big fan of Kirk Cousins, but him coming off that Achilles injury, I'm a little trepidatious to see how he's going to be looking.
I'd be speculative.
I'll be
Because
speculative.
injuries are hard.
Yes. But new head coach in Raheem Morris, new quarterback, but same old defense. And
Same old story.
I don't think their defense got any better.
No.
So, offensively, probably. Defensively, probably not. Yeah.
Not so much.
So, with that being said, that is all our grades for all 32 teams in the NFL. This was a fun episode, CP. I like this.
Yeah, this was cool.
Awesome. So, for everyone watching right now, we do intend to make some changes to how we do our podcast. We're going to be kind of experimenting a little bit with social media this off season. So please, if you haven't subscribed, please do so already. But please, we'll keep you all updated with that. But with that being said, Chris Palmer, you wanna send us out?
Yeah, like he said, we will be experimenting with some social media. So please, if you haven't subscribed already, please like, comment, subscribe. Now that the schedule is out, look up a game that you would like to talk and reach out to John or myself, and we will schedule a week to talk that game. Pick the game, we'll talk it, we'll have some fun, we'll have a conversation. Yeah, until the next one.
Awesome. We will see you next time on Let's Talk Football. Thank you.